Hola, bona nit. Benvinguts a aquesta sessió de col·loqui del IMPACTE Festival de Cinema i Drets Humans de Catalunya. Benvinguts a tots els que esteu en aquesta sessió. Com sabeu, el festival està en la seva primera edició i a part de mostrar les pel·lícules, es fan aquests col·loquis amb els autors i amb persones vinculades al tema de les pel·lícules. A part de les visionats que s'han fet presencialment a diversos cinemes de Catalunya, us vull recordar que a partir de demà el festival passa a ser online i podeu veure les pel·lícules a la web del festival i també a Filmin. En aquesta sessió comentarem o farem un col·loqui sobre la pel·lícula El riu enfangat de Baasim, de Tom Sideris, i comptarem amb la presència de Tom Sideris i també de Nour Salamenh. I la sessió la conduirem en anglès, o sigui que ara canviaré de llengua i em passaré a anglès per presentar-vos-els i per agrair-los la seva presència. So, hello Thomas and hello Nour. We are here at the IMPACTE Festival de Drets Humans i Cinema de Catalunya to have a colloquium, a question and answer session from the film Muddy River of Bassim. So we have with us Thomas Sideris, who's the author of the film, the producer and director. Thomas is a Greek journalist who works for the public channel ERT, doing historical radio documentaries, but he also does films independently, like this one and others. Most recently, a film that he's produced on the Black Lives Matter movement has won 2 awards in the United States. So human rights is something that Thomas works about quite often and successfully, as we can see. So Thomas, we're very grateful that you are here with us, and we welcome you to Barcelona, even if it's virtually.
Bona nit, Joan. Hola. I'm very happy and I'm very proud for this festival. But my beloved football team is Barcelona.
Okay, so
I know Barcelona.
You can be very happy then, because yesterday they didn't do very well.
I know Barcelona lost from Real 2-1, but it's a very beloved football team.
Okay, great. And we also have with us Nour Salamenh. Hello, Nour. Nour is a Syrian academic that is living in Spain. She arrived with a student visa, did a master's, and finally settled here. So she's a resident. But she knows from firsthand the plight of the refugees, because she's done work in Turkey and in that area with refugees. She currently is working at the Universitat Rovira i Virgili in Tarragona, where she does teaching and research. And we're very happy to have you with us also, Nour. So welcome to this session.
Bona nit. It's a pleasure and it's an honor to be with you, with the director, Mr. Sideris, and with all of you, and looking forward for the discussion tonight. Thank you so much.
Good. So before we start the discussion, the film was shown this evening at 6 p.m. in several cinemas here in Catalonia. But maybe we can watch a little trailer of the film to refresh our memories, and then we can start with the colloquium. So let's roll the trailer.
الحياة في مكان آخر. أين؟ لا أعلم. أوروبا؟ الحلم؟ ماذا يوجد ما وراء أوروبا؟ الإله؟ لربما هناك أستطيع أن أرى أخي باسم، عينيه، يديه وقدميه. باسم لديه أقدام أكبر. هو اعتاد دائما أن يركض أسرع مني.
So we have seen a short segment of the film, and I think the first question, as always, for Thomas is, how did this film came to be? What was the impulse that drove you to make this film? How did it happen?
I have refugees. I am a child from a refugee family, and I support the human rights. So, 2012, I traveled until Syria for the first time to make a short documentary about the first refugees who left their country and passed to Turkey. But this phenomenon, the next year was huge. And I decided to make this film when I met Rafik in Hatay, a region of Turkey, 2014.
Uh-huh. And one thing that is striking, or has stricken me about the film, is the fact that you seem to be concerned with giving an image of the sheer size or the sheer volume of the number of people that are affected by this situation, and the film has a sort of cumulative effect where we see sequences where the characters are not necessarily the same, but there's a willingness to keep presenting more and more and more and more. So was that something that you did intentionally from the beginning, or did you find it afterwards?
The story began in Hatay, Turkey, but the story is still going on because the human river traveling and passes borders, rivers, the Balkan route. My story, it hasn't ended. The story is still going on and going on.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't end.
I see. So Nour, you are you know the area these people come from. You know the situation because you've been working in Turkey with refugees. What was your impression when you see the film? What was your first reaction when you saw the film?
Well, to be honest, it was a very hard film to watch. Like any other or all the other documentaries and films that have been produced about the Balkan routes, the refugee crisis, the human mobility because of some context. So it was very, very hard to watch. I had to stop many times and to pull myself together. I was fascinated actually by this compilation of the scenes and the alternation between the satellite camera and then the silence. There are scenes of silence. There are scenes of and it's exactly, and then there are also scenes where we hear a lot of sirens and we can feel the sounds and a lot of the confusion of the people and screams of the people. So it was, for me, this was like very beautiful to see this because it reflects the state of the mind, of the heart and of the soul of those people, of us, of the people who had to leave their countries, who had to leave our countries because of war. But to be honest, also what I was a bit confused. I had also conflicted feelings towards it because, as I mentioned, it reflects, it's very faithful to the suffering that people are going through or feeling through while they are moving, but it lacks, for me, it lacked context. If I hadn't been a Syrian, or maybe because I'm a Syrian, I thought like, yeah, but then it only reflects part of the reality. It doesn't show also. I kept wondering, and I'm not sure, Mr. Sideris, if you agree with me, like the audience or the public, perhaps, I don't know if they agree with me or not, but when you watch this documentary, you keep wondering, like, yeah, but why did these people left their countries? There were scenes where some people said, like, they want better life, they want security, they want better future for their children. And this is true, partially true, but as if we are, because mainly the protagonists or those people who presented their testimonies were Syrians, as we could see. For me, the only reason, like, I couldn't understand the reason why they left the country. And as you mentioned, Mr. Sideris, this in 2013, the numbers of the people, this flux increased dramatically. And so one must wonder why. It was then, why? Because it was then when other countries started to intervene and provide support, military support to the conflicted parties, but it was also when the violence of the Syrian government increased and we started to hear about chemical attacks, about forced disappearance, about bombing civilian areas. It was also then when jihadist and extremist groups started to appear and pop up everywhere in Syria. So it's, for me, I think it lacked this context, and this is why I had these conflicted feelings about it.
I think it's a very interesting comment because I think it points to what the difference is between a documentary and a journalistic approach. I think that if this was framed as a reportage, as a current affairs story, I think one would one would feel the need of bringing all this context. But because this is framed as a documentary, I think I wonder whether this was, or certainly this is something that Thomas probably thought about. So Thomas, how did you decide, or what sort of process made you decide to stick just with the people and not give any context whatsoever, which is a very strong decision and very good for the film because we are there with them, and as Nour mentioned, we don't get to know anything about the outside forces that are actually driving these people to that situation. We stick with them. How did you come to this decision?
The life of the refugees is very, very difficult. I approach their lives with a poetic view. I follow the steps in the Balkan route. The Evros River is a symbolic river. The human river tries to pass the river, but the humans, the refugees, doesn't know what there is on the other side of the river, doesn't know what they want to go to Europe, but they don't know what is Europe. They want to connect with a member of the families, but they don't know the way for this connection. These people, these humans, are unprotected under the view of the god. It's a symbolic film documentary. The searching of the Europe maybe is the searching of the god. There isn't Europe and there isn't God. It's um, it's a personal view.
Yeah, but did you at any point during the making of the film and think or consider bringing some of this context that might help a viewer that is not so familiar with the dynamics of these human river, as you say. So beyond the experience of the people who are there, which is very well reflected in the film, did you consider giving some context for publics or audiences that might not be as fully aware of what is that context as yourself or as Nour or people who are knowledgeable about the issue?
The documentary based on a true story, the story of Rafik Dagoud, the life story of Rafik Dagoud. Rafik, when I met Rafik, was 10 years old. After 8 years, Rafik is an adult. Rafik is searching his brother Baasim, but in my film, never we can see the face of Rafik and the face of Baasim. Maybe all of these humans is a short story of Rafik or the story of Baasim. You know, 3 weeks ago, the mother of Rafik and Baasim, she's asking for me to learn what about the body of Baasim. Really, I don't know what answer in this woman. Maybe Baasim lost in the Aegean Sea. I don't know. I don't know exactly. I can find materials about him, documents about him. Maybe I suppose that Baasim death in Aegean Sea. I'm not sure. Either Rafik is sure, but now after 8 years, Rafik believes that Baasim is dead. He believes it, but he's not sure.
Hmm. And Nour, you told me before that you have been working with refugees in Turkey at a point in your career. So how similar or different the situations you saw there while you were working with refugees are to what is in the film? Uh, uh, did it did it is there any part of your experience that maybe the film doesn't convey, or what sort of yeah, what sort of link can you make between what you experience yourself and what the film is portraying?
Um, Again, thank you so much for this question. And again, as I said, what I loved about this documentary, or actually what made me very sad, it's that it was a very realistic depiction of the situation of a person who is running away from a danger, and the Syrian, let's say, Syrian refugees. In my experience, I worked with IDPs, internally displaced people, who lives in camps on the borders with Turkey, but inside Syria. But I had friends, and I also met some refugees who lived and are still living in Turkey. But those whom I met in Turkey were living in more organized camps, let's say. So let's say the sanitary situation was better. Some of the situation was slightly better. But I could relate a lot between the situation of those IDPs in the camps and then the inhumane condition they lived in, and the refugees who were waiting on the borders in the Balkans and Serbia until the borders open. So yeah, it was like a real depiction. Yes, people live don't live, or actually they're waiting. They are in a state of waiting. They are uncertain of the future, of the tomorrow, their whole lives, futures, and the lives and the futures of their lives, and their loved ones are attached to the decision of a politician. in this case, the politician in the European Union. And it was very interesting for me, for instance, to see the historical moment in which the documentary, I believe, or most of the scenes were captured, which was around 2015, 2016. And it was then when the Turkish government was blackmailing the European Union. And they played, this whole game where they told people and refugees to go on the borders with Greece, and they actually facilitated buses. So yeah, it's that was very also an interesting choice, and I would like to ask Mr. Sideris about like why this specific moment. But what I've missed actually, what I think that the movie didn't really reflect was the situation of women, or the voices of women, because for me it was missing. We've heard a lot of testimonies throughout the movie, but none of them was a woman. And I would like to, if you allow me, Mr. Joan, to address this question to Mr. Sideris.
Of course, go on.
Why women weren't interviewed?
Because the women they didn't want to speak in camera. They are very sad, and they worried about their babies, about their families. I have problem to take an interview from women.
I think now this comment that you made, Nour, and your answer, Thomas, makes me think of forced migration, be it for political reasons, for wars, for economical reasons, is a phenomenon that is not new, unfortunately, that we have seen. And now that you talk about mothers being worried about their children, it came to my mind this famous image by Dorothea Lange of a situation that is very different in the US in the 1920s, when people were migrating for hunger, because they for poverty. And there's this famous image of the woman with the two kids who are facing away from the camera. It's an iconic photograph. And I think that the film also, I mean, the film is about the human river of refugees from the Syrian war and also from other wars, from Afghanistan and so on. But also it has this universal value of describing what it is to have to leave your home and look for a future that sometimes is totally uncertain. I mean, in the gold rush in the 19th century in the U.S., people left their homes, but they had the hope of a brighter future because they were supposed to be able to find gold or whatever. But here, it's totally a different situation. But I think that I now realize that your film also has this universal dimension. It's about not only this particular human river, it's about all the human rivers that are happening also in other areas of the world with the Rohingya refugees or in other situations. And also, this is sort of a universal experience, a sad experience that maybe I don't know what's your vision, but maybe is it going to be worse or better in general terms, the refugee situation in the foreseeable future? Are we going to see less human rivers, or are we going to see more human rivers?
Joan, I agree with you. This human river is in between Turkey and Greece. Maybe it's the same human river from Ceuta and Melilla, Spanish region cities from Africa to Europe, and the same human river is maybe on the borders between USA and Mexico. Now, migration is a global phenomenon, and behind of this phenomenon, it's a very a huge business. because all of the parts of this migration administrate big amounts about refugees. I think that the human river, this phenomenon, for me is it's a global problem, and then at this moment, European Union must decide what's about of this problem. In Greece, you know, the refugees are trapped in the islands. Many refugees came from Turkey, Izmir, and Çeşme to Chios, Lesbos, Samos, Greek islands. And at this moment, these people, a very big number of these people are trapped in the islands under I can't describe the conditions. The situation is terrible.
So Nour, what's your take on this?
Well, I agree with both of you. It is a universal. It's like the documentary itself, the Muddy River, does reflect a universal issue and a universal human experience. But in the case of, like, let's say, the Balkan routes or the crisis of the refugees in the Mediterranean, it's for me, the problem is that the way it is being treated depolitize, let's say, the whole movement, like why this influx. So we are often talking about a crisis, but it's not actually a crisis because human history and then in the globe, our planet and our Earth, there were a lot of similar movements in Far East and even during the Second World War. And so this is something that is perpetuating, and it's perpetuating for a reason. So Syrian people didn't go out of Syria because of a disaster or a natural disaster or an earthquake. There were reasons. And the problem is thus not the mobility itself, but the root causes of this. And the problem is that the unwillingness of the European Union to not only to the European Union, to be honest and to be fair, but to the whole world to address and tackle the root causes of this problem, so which are political by excellence. The second problem, like, the second observation, or let's say not really answer, it's an answer to your question, like, do we see this movement or do we see this this river increasing or decreasing in the future? Of course, it's going to be increasing, because not only that we're having wars now, we are having a climate emergency, a climate crisis, and it's going to be affecting more and more people. It is expected, I think, that within the 20 next years, there are going to be 8 million climate refugees from in the East, from Asia, but also from Africa and from the Middle East. So apart from the conflicts that we have in there. So this is a huge problem. And that how is the world tackling this problem? By building walls. So what I liked about the documentary the most, one of the things that I liked the most about it, is that it showed us the beginning of the wall, you know, the building of the wall, not the material one, but the symbolic one, because as I said, it does reflect a historic moment when Turkey blackmailed the European Union, and then there were this infamous agreement where Europe decided to become a very solidify, securitize its borders, which meant literally to kick back the refugees, and there is no interest, like where they will go. No, they're just pushing them back.
I think that the film conveys this in a very clever way with these images of surveillance cameras, infrared surveillance cameras in black and white, where you see bodies as just white blobs, because this is the image of depersonalization, and depersonalizing the refugees is what the European Union is doing. So I think in that way, it's a very clever juxtaposition of materials, because even if, in my view, the way, Thomas, you are filming the refugees, uh, it's we never get too close to any one of them. We never get to know them. They are people. They are real persons. We can empathize with them, but the way they are filmed is consistent throughout the film, and they remain human beings who are anonymous, but they are not depersonalized. And the
Mhm.
and the inclusion of the images of the control cameras, black at infrared
Thermal
and so on,
cameras.
the
Mhm.
thermal cameras. This is a very, I think, a very poignant way to signal how the European reaction is, first of all, to depersonalize these human beings, and then, or as a consequence of the stance of the European Union, they become depersonalized
I
for
agree with
the
you.
authorities.
Joan, don't forget that at this moment, the countries of Visegrad, they have made a block, and all of the dreams of the refugees destroyed on the electrician fences. Now, at this moment, thousands of refugees are trapped in Balkan regions, not only Greece, but all of this Balkan region. I'm afraid very much, because I see that in many European countries there are far-right position about migration, and political parties are making a policy, and anti-migration policy for the next year. I'm afraid very much about this.
Mhm. We have a question from the audience. I didn't mention this at the beginning. There's a chat that you can use to send questions to Thomas or to Nour. So feel free to use the chat. And we have a question, which is the person sending the question says, "This film shocked me very much, and I was impressed with it. But why, Thomas? Why did you include the item on Italy? Because the Italy section doesn't seem to follow the Greek path. So why did you include the Italian segment in the film if it seems to be out of the Greek path?"
Because many ships and boats passed from Adriatica to Greece. Lampedusa is close to my country, and I would like to show the alternative routes from these people. The one route is from Istanbul, Edirne, Evros River, and after, or Macedonian path, or via Albanian path. But many refugees arrived to Greece from Adriatica via Lampedusa,
Mhm,
and
mhm,
they following the Albanian path.
mhm. So yeah, because in fact um, this is a very dynamic situation as well. So paths change according to how difficult or not so difficult are the situations in a given area at a given moment. So this is not a fixed
Yes,
route.
all of these paths are fluid, and the situation is fluid. You know that all along in these paths there are human smugglers, traffickers. Okay,
Mhm,
they sell dreams to the refugees, but all of these dreams are fake, are false.
mhm. Noor, go on, please.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you about the smugglers, but I don't think that their job is really to sell dreams. They're because I know a couple of people who did this route. They were smuggled, and they sought refugee, and they went and they arrived to Germany. So the problem is that actually coming to Europe is not really selling dreams, because when people come here, when they make it to a safe country, not those who are stranded in Greece, but those who make it to other countries like Germany, Sweden, even here in Spain, they have a sort of liberties and of rights and basic rights, right? Although the system, like for instance, in countries like Spain, it's not really reacting very well. It's not they don't really have a great. Sorry for that. It's not the greatest receipt system, but I mean, these are not dreams. Safety and human rights are not dreams. These are very tangible and real things that people are seeking. Not everyone is seeking a better economic life. Many people are, especially those, because the majority of those who left Syria now are from areas that have been subjected to bombing, who have lost everything, who have lost their homes, who cannot go back because the country is not safe. Not only people who are running away from terrorist groups and jihadist groups. So they are also looking for something. It's not a dream, it's a reality. They are looking for rights, for human rights, and a place where they could express themselves. So in that sense, I kind of disagree, but yes, those who, for instance, now live in are trapped, as you mentioned, and you said it very beautifully. They are trapped, trapped in camps that have been former military bases, no? In some cases, in some islands in Greece. So they're actually in prison. They are detained, not only trapped. And this is a sad truth. I mean, this is a sad sight. But so what I'm trying to say is that it would make more sense if, instead of solidifying the borders through Frontex, and for instance, now I know that the government, there were reports by Amnesty International, like the government, like some units of like the police, the Greek police are pushing back the boats of the refugees. They're just pushing them back, literally. Like if it's a patera, they call it like the boat, and they just like the dinghy, and they just push it away. And this is happening with people turning a blind eye on it, and this is a huge problem. So the solution, I think, or a good way to treat with this human suffering is to actually facilitate visas, accelerate the processing of the files and of the immigrants and the refugees.
Joan, on January 20, there are militia Greek people to protect the Greek borders, to protect for what? From what? From unprotected people, very, very poor people, people who lost everything. And these people with cars among the Greek borders, they want to protect the Greek borders. This situation, I feel very bad about this. I'm a friend for this situation.
Yeah, I think it's, of course, it's it doesn't seem to be something that has a. It doesn't seem that it can go for the better in the short term, because, as Nour was saying, besides the refugees due to war or to fleeing poverty or terrorist groups, there's the climate emergency as well, which will create other flows. And I think in that sense, it's important that filmmakers do in many different ways address this issue, even if it's just to not let us forget about the plight of all these fellow human beings. And I wonder also, Thomas, what was the most difficult part for you of making this film? Was it in the shooting? Was it in the editing? In terms of filmmaking, what was the most difficult thing for you in making the film?
I think that the most difficult step was during 2015 on the Balkan route, especially Croatian and Slovenian regions,
Why so?
because the guards and the police from these countries are negative about the filming, and we have many problems. Many times the crew faced the police violence during the filming.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever been arrested in the making the film, or did you
Yes,
have had fear for your integrity?
Joan, I have arrested twice in Turkey, and after 2018, I can't visit the Turkey because the Turkish government published against me. I am persona non grata for Turkish government because I support the human rights.
Yeah, yeah. So so this is what um, a proof of your commitment to what you're doing. So we have a
On
question.
January, on January 20, the cameraman arrested in Edirne during filming when Turkish government pushing refugees to Greek borders, and the Turkish guards arrested the cameraman. She's woman, and they took the camera, and she stayed in prison for 18 hours.
Wow, wow. So that's sad to hear. We have a question from the audience. They say, "You reach to make us smell the environments the migrants live, to be close to the circumstances they suffer. I understand," says the viewer, "I understand your aim was more this rather than to follow a narrative path. So, am I wrong?" Is his question. So he feels like you prefer to do something more, I would say, impressionistic, if I can put it that way, than a conventional narrative film. Was that your intention?
Please repeat the question because I don't understand very well.
Yeah, the viewer says, you reach to make us smell the environments the migrants
Okay.
live, to be close to their circumstances they suffer. I understand your aim was more this rather than to follow a narrative path. Am I wrong? He is asking in
Okay.
that appreciation.
Okay. Um, uh, I don't know. Uh, I tried to follow the refugees like as I am refugee. I feel as a refugee when I film these people. I follow in the long refugee trek, and I feel like the
Sorry, I think it was interrupted. You said at the end.
I
That
feel I feel like them.
Yeah. So in a way, you were more interested in conveying just the emotions than in creating a conventional narrative, we might say.
I prefer to I make a film without narration because I want to speak to talk the human river.
Mhm. So I think there are no more questions from the audience, and I think we've come to understand very well with your explanations, Thomas, uh, what your intentions were in making the film, really staying close to this human river, and also to see with your comments and Nour's comments the wider context in which this has to be seen in terms of what happened in the context during the events that the film covers, and also in general towards the future. So maybe as we're drawing to a close, uh, um, maybe we can have a last thought from each of you. Maybe Nour first. What do you think is the most important thing to take away from this film for a viewer?
The takeaway. Well, I think that I really want to thank you, Mr. Sideris, because that was a very real depiction of the suffering and of the uncertainty. As I said, I had started saying this, no, like uncertainty that people feel, a refugee in this case feels, because they're not migrants, because they're running away from war. What I also think it's like it's a very historic document, this documentary, to show us how politics are how we are responsible also of making politics or undoing the politics, unmaking the politics in the sense that so now we have, I will borrow the words of the spectator or the audience who did know. She said, like, so now we have reached, now we know the environment, we know how a migrant or a refugee live, we know, we can smell it, we can see it, we can feel the cold, we can see, we can feel the fear as well and the uncertainty. So what can we do about it? I think this documentary is a very good material for us to question first the root causes of this tragedy, of this human tragedy, but also what can we do? What is our input? So my question is for you and for the audience would be, the takeaway is a question. What would you do to stop this river from being muddy, for being a clear river?
So, Tom?
I'm carrying the suffer of these silenced people, and but I haven't hope for the future. At this moment, during the pandemic, during this terrible pandemic, these humans are, are alone, without protection and without help. Maybe if we believe that these human beings is our issue, is a problem, then we can understand what to do, and we can press the governments to change their policy. But it's very difficult. I live in a country in which the most population are refugee, and many Greeks went during the 50s or 60s, went to work in Europe, travel to Europe to work in miners, in industries, West Germany, Belgium, etc. We are refugees, we are foreigners in our country, and I want and from Greek government to change the policy. Hungary is a negative example. I hope all of these countries, the countries of Visegrad, don't became like as Hungary. And I hope and Greek government don't support anti-immigration policies. But I haven't many hopes for the future. Sorry for this. I want to see the future with another view, but I can't. Believe me.
Well, I think I understand your feelings, Tom, but I think that the work you've done as a filmmaker and the work that is being done by so many filmmakers in Europe and around the world to tackle these issues, to make us aware of these situations, is already a positive step. Because if we don't get information, if we don't know from first-hand accounts like yours, we won't be able to act as Nour is suggesting. So information, knowledge is necessary to drive action. So I think that I can understand uh, your outlook, but I think we must believe in the power of telling the stories, and the power of documentaries and journalism to be able to induce some change of mentality, even if the conditions are very very tough. And
we can't change the world, but we can the opportunity to think different, the humans.
Exactly. I mean, we can make it change the world one person at a time. It's slow, but it can be done. So I have comments from Muriel Porter, the director of the festival, who says, "Thank you very much, Nour, Tom, for sharing your experiences and knowledge with all of us." And he says that he can tell that he has seen the audience getting out from the theater today after watching the film, and they were very moved after seeing the film. So you have created an impact on them. So I think we can leave it here. Again, thank you, Tom. Thank you, Nour.
Thank you very much.
All
my
of
heart.
the audience. And let's hope that maybe next year we can see another film with can give us a little bit more of hope. So let's have hope, and let's us make good films.
Thank you very much.
You.
Bye bye from Athens.
Okay,
bye.
Bye. I us recordo a tots que el festival continua en la seva versió online a la web del festival i també a la plataforma Filmin, i per tant us convido a veure altres pel·lícules de la selecció que s'ha fet per donar una visió àmplia de la producció audiovisual, de la producció de documentals relatius als drets humans. Moltes gràcies a tots, moltes gràcies al Impacte Festival per convidar-nos a aquesta sessió i oferir-nos la possibilitat de conèixer aquesta pel·lícula i de conèixer en Thomas i la Nour i les seves reflexions. I fins la propera. Bona nit.